moment, as some of you may already be aware. I'm going to provide a short update on some of the wider things which are currently taking place, and this reflects national debate about housing and the acceleration of growth and delivery. And at the national level, the government's rulebook for planning, the NPPF, the National Planning Policy Framework, which advises local planning authorities and developers on what they can and cannot do when planning developments, was updated in December last year. And the updated NPPF includes new housing objectives, including the delivery of 1.5 million new homes over the next 5 years nationally. And it also includes a revised way of calculating what councils need to deliver housing over the years ahead. And these new housing targets and government planning guidance means that the joint housing target for the city and South Cambridgeshire has increased from just over 1,700 homes to 2,309 homes a year. And combined with a buffer, which has to be introduced, this means that the Shared Planning Service needs to be able to demonstrate a supply of just over 12,100 homes in Greater Cambridge over 5 years. And changing that target does create some challenges for our Shared Planning Service, but we're working on preparing our next housing update report, and that will be published in April. And as part of this work, we're looking at ways of speeding up the delivery of the 36,000 new homes that already have planning permission across Greater Cambridge, as well as identifying suitable future developments in order to meet the new target. And all of this will be progressed through work on the joint Greater Cambridge local plan. Other updates from a national level: the Cambridge Growth Company was set up under the last government, and it's been awarded funding by this government to undertake a number of key activities. At a national level, there's a national project on new towns looking for locations, including across the Cambridge and Oxford growth area, looking for potential sites for new towns and big extensions. And there's due to be a report on those findings later this summer. And at a regional and local level, the Cambridge Growth Group's looking at accelerating development to try and speed up the process of building more homes and building them faster. And it's also looking to develop an evidence base to support a future growth plan, and that will sit above our current local plan. And it's also looking at the type of delivery vehicle that will be required to deliver those longer term government plans. Those plans are going to be proposing even more homes than currently being programmed into the next joint local plan. Finally, turning back to Darwin Green, I have an update on behalf of the county education team. As I mentioned earlier, they're unable to join us this evening, but they've provided an update about local school provision. We recognise the need for more secondary places in the north of Cambridge, and we are ready to proceed quickly with the design and build of the new secondary school on Darwin Green. But before we can start work on the site, access and necessary service connections, such as water, electricity and gas, they need to be supplied and transferred to our ownership. We're working with the developers Barratt David Wilson Homes to enable this. But until these matters are resolved, we won't be able to provide an opening date for this new school. But in the meantime, we will continue to work with schools across the city and just outside the city to find school places for children living on the new developments of Eddington and Darwin Green. So that brings to an end my planning update. I believe we'll be inviting the education officer to the next meeting of the forum, so they will be able to provide any further updates. If there are questions specifically about education, I'm not the specialist, but we will take away those questions and we will provide a written update on the website in due course. Move on. Does anybody have any questions about my planning update? Please raise your hand if you're in the room, or similarly respond on the Q&A at home.
That's as good as I can get, I'm afraid. I'm really sorry. We did try earlier to get it bigger than that, but that's as much as I can do.
So for those listening in, there was a question about the ability to make the screen clearer, the slides, but a full screen, but I don't believe we can do that. Any other questions, please? Yeah.
I just wonder about the schools. Do you have any idea of when these initial electricity, gas and water might be resolved? Are we looking about 6 months or a year or?
Well, we do have the developer, David Wilson Homes, on the call this evening. I don't want to put Andrew on the spot, but I'm going to.
No change there then.
Andrew, let's see if this works. Andrew, did you hear the question?
I did
and
hear,
are you able
yeah,
to respond, please?
Yeah,
Good evening.
Just to say, I'm not operations director, which is very flattering. But anyway, the process which my colleagues are going to talk about with the phase 2-3 presentation is fundamentally, it's going to take a while to get the site prepared. We need to fill the site with engineering fill. We need to get obviously all the services in there, and it's going to take a while. We anticipate 2 years before we probably are in a position to provide a service site. Clearly, conversations are taking place with the county education, and as they've said, they'll keep you up to date. But the issue is that these things do take a while, and there is a lot of work to be done to prepare the site before we are able to give the county a service site that is actually of value. Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. Apologies for getting your role wrong. What I will add to your point is that the triggers for providing the service site should be set out in the agreed legal document, the Section 106 agreement for the Darwin Green 2-3 site. So we can provide an update on those triggers as part of update on the web in due course. Thank you. Any other questions before we move on?
Got one coming online.
Question: when will we have community electricity in the plaza?
That's another one for me. I think I understand all the orders have been placed. It is now with the supplier to carry out the works, and I will give an update after this meeting as a response that we can obviously share. But it's, as I said, we're doing everything we can to ensure that that supply is in the plaza as soon as possible.
That's great. This actually moves us quite nicely into the next update, and I'm going to hopefully ask if as part of the next update, either Andrew or John are able to give an update on the central park between the different phases of the Darwin Green development, because that's one of the questions that's just come through. Sorry, putting you on the spot now, but if I could introduce here in the room my good colleague John Shuttlewood from the Shared Planning Service. He's going to do a joint update on Darwin Green 1 alongside Andrew, who you've already heard from. So John, are you kicking off first?
Yes.
Brilliant, thank
you. Is that okay, Andrew?
Yeah, you're far away, John. Are you doing? You got anything to present, or do you want me to put my slides up?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. For those who do not know me, my name is John Shuttlewood, and I am Principal Planner here, Strategic Sites Team dealing with Darwin Green at the Greater Cambridge Shared Planning Service. I thought I'd do a short presentation tonight just on the stuff that I've been involved with since we last met, really. I just wanted to highlight some of the work that's been done regarding some of the inquiries that we have about information and about what is happening on the site and our responses as to what's happening on the site, along with what applications are coming in. So the first one here, we've got Parcels BDW1 and the local centre that we're currently in. What you can see is a picture of apparently of a 100-year-old hedge that was being cut back. And what in terms, Andrew actually has some more information in his presentation about it. But what it turns out is actually the hedge was actually being cut back and maintained for future biodiversity gains as part of a requirement of the infrastructure plans in the reserve matters. And if you actually follow the line of the hedge, that goes all the way through from Huntington Road to virtually up to Eastern Road as well. It's in various states of growth at the moment, and this is the first date of where it is being cut down to about 1.5, 1.1 to 1.5 metres, and is being braided in a way where it can grow back more vigorously in the future. We've also had details and inquiries here about the interim parking management scheme, and we've fielded a lot of information about that, and basically just reiterating that the scheme has always been in place, but it's actually not been enforced by barriers and by the contractors until very recently. So this is why people who are living in the local centre and use the local centre are now seeing signs, and in some cases getting fines for when they are parking on the street. And I'm sure Andrew will reiterate in his presentation, this is not meant to be, a no street parking area. Then also, most recently, we had a complaint that some of the lighting over there towards where all the Mooga is, and your way out to where Windsor Road was broken, and so that has been given to BDW to basically get repaired and looked at. If we move on to the BDW2 parcel, if you've been here before, previous forum, you would have heard mention a lot of times about the drainage ditch. Well, here is the drainage ditch, or at least a section of it. And in particular, I just wanted to point out a new addition to the drainage ditch, where you have these head walls here. The head walls actually have drains that take some water that way and this way. And actually, in order to help them free flowly and to stop any nasty stuff going into it, we've actually had grills put in here at the request of residents, just to make sure that they're not blocking the area that might relate to any future instances of flooding. And then there's also requests about the piling caps and the heights currently that is on BDW2, where properties are yet to be built. Andrew again will talk about this, but it has been agreed that BDW will go out and survey the building control points where the pilings are to make sure that they are the correct height. They will then be transposed onto planning documents, which will be sent to me to review whether those points are at the same height and in the right location, to ensure that the properties are going to be built in the correct places. And also, the piling activity that was taking place behind the properties of Woodlark Road, that has ceased for the time being until the contractors are putting effective monitoring equipment so they can work and see when and how near and how loud the piling vibrations are. If we move on to parcels 3 and 4, I just think this is an example of some of the conditions that are coming in. So this is a bike store, and details for bike stores have to come in as part of the conditions, and they have to be approved and discharged. If you see a lovely, this is one for 2 bikes for one of our smaller properties on parcel 4. And you've got a little lip at the top here. This is actually so we can fit into the lip a green tray, so you can actually grow some nice stuff in the tray. So it's all kind of greening, and hopefully that will be a good addition for those properties. And then parcels 5 and 6, now actually we don't really normally have any direct representation. I think that might be worthwhile in the future. We had inquiries about a fence that's been erected around the recently completed areas, and we understand that is a temporary measure for health and safety reasons, and that will be in place until December, when I understand that will be put down and taken down. So any worries about that fence being there permanently should not be feared. It will actually be coming down by Christmas. And we actually are meeting the agents from BDW Cambridgeshire who are building that site. We're actually meeting them next week to go through some of the landscaping details. We've also had an application come in to discharge details relating to the recent plots that were approved, that were required to be approved, and also piling issues as well that we've had previously. Basically, that condition was put on so we can basically make sure that BDW will be piling in the right manner and with the right mitigation involved. And then finally, no, it's not a story about a dog finding its way back 100 miles lost on holiday to its home 2 weeks later. We've got the former sports pavilion here. It's a grand, beautiful building. Unfortunately, it's been a sorry state of repair at the moment. but there is an application coming at the moment to basically restore it so it's sympathetic, former glory, and a change of use proposed is to be a kinder cafe, and a kinder cafe is a cross between a Bijou kind of nursery where young parents and their children can come along, and people can also come along and buy cakes and also interact with each other. So that, hopefully, if that is approved, that could be a potential future really good potential community use for that. And then at the moment, we've also had the consultee comments and the neighbour comments being received for that as well at the moment in time. Okay, a lot there to digest. I will take questions along with Andrew, but I think I'll hold over to Andrew for the moment. So, Andrew, fire away.
Right, sorry, good evening. Can you all see the presentation that I've shared?
Yes, we can.
Good, right, okay, well, that's a brilliant start. Right, okay, sorry, right, good evening. Yeah, my name is Andrew McLaren, I'm the project manager. Thank you for the promotion earlier, that was very welcome. So there's been a lot going on since we last, what Adrian presented to you before Christmas. Just a brief update of the business. As you're probably aware, Redrow joined Barratt, and we're now Barratt Redrow. That unfortunately led to the closure of the Cambridgeshire division, which is where I used to work, and Adrian did as well. And the project's now been transferred to the safe hands of my colleagues at the David Wilson Homes in South Midlands, some of whom are actually on this presentation as well. Sadly, Adrian Jarman has left the business, and we wish him well for his future on that. A lot of the staff who have had dealings with Darwin Green are still within the team, so there is continuity there, which is welcome. All right, let's just obviously try not to duplicate what John has said very, very eloquently, but this is basically just a quick whiz through of some of the areas of activity, some of which, as I said, John has already identified. The hedge he mentioned is actually being layered. It's an ancient traditional form of rejuvenation of a hedge that's obviously got well past its sort of sell-by date in terms of it's growing now was into a wood. We've got the services of a hugely experienced hedge layer, and that hedge will recover from its current state, which is obviously laying down into something really vibrant and with a lot of potential for biodiversity, birds and other creatures to actually benefit from it. And as John said, there are other areas of hedge to be treated in that way, but that is what we're doing. So it wasn't, I think people were concerned we were just chopping it down. It was considerably more sophisticated than that. As far as the piling works, yes, I've got the latest revision documents from the contractor, which I'll be sharing with John and his colleagues, and we'll go through the measures that they recommend to manage any vibration and how we actually ensure that it's no longer a nuisance. John quite rightly said we've actually sold the old pavilion, but obviously we're working very closely with the new owners who obviously, as you said, have got an application in, and clearly we'll be working with them to assist in their refurbishment of it. And there's obviously the advantage of it overlooking that micro park that sits in the sort of the southwest of the site. Southern Ditch, John's mentioned, and the contractor is, as required, programmed to carry out further clearance works at the end of March. And just to say that the allotments, if you've been able to see the site, we're nearly completing the works for the hut in the middle, and we are looking at a handover to the allotment society community in autumn this year, if not earlier. So that's an update on parcel 2. Local centre, obviously we've mentioned the supply, which, as I said, I will take that away and see if I can accelerate it. As far as the community facilities, we're working to complete the fit out of the library, and obviously we'll be talking to the County Library Service for the formal legal handover, which we're required to do. The health centre, we're working with the NHS Property Services and also Red House Surgery, because this particular facility is going to be a satellite of that doctor's surgery, and we're working hard to get ourselves into a position to actually fit it out. Time scale, there's no works in terms of change to the planning permission. It is an internal works, and obviously that will take some time, but we're again conscious that people have a need, and we'll obviously do everything we can to facilitate that. Retail, I know there's been questions as to why do we still have retail units. It's fundamentally the market and the relatively restrained level of occupation, although we're now up to about 450 units. We are in the process of reinvigorating the marketing exercise. We're talking to some well-connected local consultants, and again, an update will be available at the next meeting, but rest assured, we're also trying to have a conversation with the consortium about the supermarket, because that belongs to them. It's not a Barratt Redrow project. We don't own the land that sits. Mentioned previously about the sports facilities in the Central Park. We will be opening the sports pavilion, the tennis court, the cricket and football pitch in the summer of this year. Obviously, there are other areas that are currently being used, the multi-use games area, the neighbourhood equipped area of play. And as I said, we are planning a major event to celebrate that. So we're in discussions with the City Council's Parks Department to ensure that all takes place. But it's appreciated a grass pitch takes normally about 2 years to mature, so I think we'll be doing really well on that. But yes, summer this year is the date in which we're going to be opening it, and obviously at the next meeting, which I believe will be before that, we'll give a more update, and all of this information will be put onto our website and obviously shared through John and his colleagues as well. As far as the issue of parking, yes, I'm afraid the site is definitely a no on-street parking area. It always has been, and as John said, it's purely a case of that the enforcement team hasn't been as active as they currently are. There is a mention about e-parking permits. They are really specifically for very short-term day visitors, maintenance teams, potentially removal lorries, all of those short-term events. And we again will be putting a link on to the websites for people, for residents to ask to be provided. Well, there's not an issue of providing it, but it needs to be understood that it is not a residence parking permit in the normal sense of the term. I've just had an email earlier, literally before we started this meeting, regarding the e-scooters. It is anticipated that an event, and all the residents are going to be written to over the next week or so, to say that the e-scooters, the 6 of them, will be trialled, and that event will take place on the 29th of this month, which on top of the car club will certainly assist. I am going to be talking to the bus operator to see if we can actually accelerate the delivery of a bus service, because obviously that sort of will also help assist in the residents' ability to sustainably move around the area. And I believe, yes, the end of this presentation. So I think, as John said, if there's any questions, both John and I will be more than happy to answer those if we can. Thank you very much.
That's great. Many thanks, Andrew, and
Pleasure.
to John as well. We've got a couple of questions that I'm going to take that have come in online, and then I'll turn to the room to see if there's any further questions. Andrew, you mentioned the consortium of landowners. For those that might not be aware of who this comprises, could you just elaborate, please?
Yes, basically the Darwin Green sites, both phase 1 and phase 2-3, are owned by approximately 12 to 14 individual landowners. NIAB, which is obviously the local employer, the universities, and private individuals, and they are all landowners. And the agreement is fundamentally that that Barratt Redrow purchased the residential parcels from them, and we developed them. We were responsible for the master development work, such as the provision of areas of play, the highways, and so on, but we don't own those. We transfer those once they're complete and gone through maintenance to the county council. And the landowners themselves retain some of the areas, one of which is actually the supermarket itself. And clearly they feel or have felt that it's an opportunity that they wish to exploit outside of the role that Barratt actually has. So it is actually a privately owned area of land within the phase 1 development.
That's great, Andrew. Many thanks for clarifying. And then there's just been another question asking for further clarity about what's happening to the north of the Central Park area. You had a helpful slide up as part of your presentation. I don't know whether it might be worthwhile just to go back to that slide. I'm afraid I can't clarify any more. The question just asks, what about the north of the park? Is that something you're able to advise on?
Sorry, yes, that's yes, it's clearly part of the overall Central Park development, and obviously we've been focusing on the sports pitches and the areas around the sports pavilion, because those obviously are so close to the local centre and the residents for parcel 4, which is, you can still see the slide, the sort of the soft white grade area to the right. The parcel 3, which is the run of properties further to the, well, in this instance, the west of the area, is probably, is going to be the last parcel there. But that said, I can give some, after this meeting, some indication as to when we anticipate to have completed those works as well, so that we can basically have completed the Central Park in its entirety. And the issue, obviously, people need to recognise is that will then need to be fenced off to protect the residents and users from, obviously, the construction areas, but that will be done in coordination with the local authority, with yourselves, to make sure that it's done appropriately. But yes, the ambition is to carry on and proceed with all the works.
That's great, Andrew. Many thanks for your responses this evening. So I'm now going to turn to the audience here in the room and ask if anyone's got any further questions for either John or Andrew. Please wave your hand and we'll bring a microphone over to you.
Hi, thank you. Do you have any more precise estimate for the opening for the library, please?
I haven't got a specific date. Again, it's something that I will make sure that is shared after this meeting. But the building itself is fundamentally complete in terms of being ready for the internal fit out and any works that the library service requires. It's as I said, it's something that I should not believe should take too long, depending on how much work is the actual library service needs to carry out to be able to start to put books and desks and and other elements within there. So I don't want to give you a date because I don't know it at this stage, but I will make sure I'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you for your response. Now, I'm not seeing any more hands up, so thank you for your contributions, John and Andrew. We will now move on to the next speaker. And I'd like to introduce two speakers in respect of Darwin Green 2 and 3. With us this evening are Harriet Wooler and Will Hodgson. Thank you. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa. I'm Will Hodgson. I'm Senior Land Manager at Barratt Redrow East Region. I've been working on Darwin Green 2-3 for a number of years now. I'm not a planner, though that's why we've got Harriet here at Bidwells, who's going to lead most of the discussion today. I believe Philippa's previously provided updates to yourselves in respect of the planning appeal and how the progress on that went. Up to the date, we got an approval in September last year, so we'll just sort of talk you through what our next steps are and what we're currently focusing on in order to deliver the phases 2 and 3 at Darwin Green.
Hello, yes, I'm Harriet Wooler. I work at Bidwells and I've been the planning agent on the application and the appeal. So as Will said, we'll provide a bit of an update on what we've been working on since we received the approval. Wait for the slides. There we go. Yes, so this just sets out a little bit of background on which I understand Philip has already provided. So if we quickly skip on to the next one, thank you. So our key focus has been around the conditions attached to the consent that we received. So the main one that we're looking at the moment is the design code. Now, for a bit of context, the design code basically sets all of the principles of the development coming forward. So it'll set we've got the parameter plans, but this kind of brings that next level of detail. So this will kind of set the framework in which the reserve matters applications will come forward. So we've been discussing this with the council and with Philippa to bring that forward. We're also looking at the phasing strategy on the sequence in which the site's going to be delivered. And we're also looking at some of the pre-commencement conditions, which include the youth and play strategy, so where the parks are all going to go, the public art, and we'll be submitting the details for that, and also some of the other pre-commencement conditions that are required to come forward before work starts on site. We're also going to be at some point, not just yet, but at some point looking at the first reserve matters. So those will be for the infrastructure, so all the roads and the drainage, the country park. Obviously, as you can see on the plan, it's a very big country park, so we're going to be bringing that forward on its own to give it the significance that it deserves, and also the residential parcels. So that will also come forward as a separate application. So yes, so going on to the design code. So we have held two pre-application meetings with the councils to date. One we met on site and we were walking through Darwin Green 1 and discussing kind of the things that they like and the things that they don't like, so we can have some learning lessons going forward into Darwin Green 2-3. And we've also kind of discussed the key aspects of the site, so where the entrances into all the residential parcels will be, and kind of very high level detail at the moment. We've also got some initial surveys happening as well, so those will include the ecology and the archaeology as well.
Yeah, just looking forward, then obviously there's a fair bit of planning work to be done in the background over the next couple of years. I think we're internally looking at trying to deliver the site as quickly as we can at Darwin Green 2-3, noting there's going to be some overlap with delivery on Darwin Green 2-3 and Darwin Green 1. Our first sort of infrastructure and initial bits of infrastructure we're hoping to start in the mid to late part of next year. And we're expecting to deliver our first units off there and sell them to our residents from 2028 onwards. That's currently what we're focusing on, and I appreciate there's a lot of work that needs to go between now and then to do that, but I think with a concerted effort all round we should be able to achieve that. I think that is it from us. It's a rather short and sweet presentation. Hopefully provides a useful overview of what sort of process we've been going through since getting the planning approval in September, the sort of next steps from us, certainly from a planning point of view, and as those progress, we're more than happy to sort of continue to attend these forums and keep yourselves updated. But if you do have any questions, then yeah, feel free to let us know.
Okay, so we're going to take questions from the room first. Yes, if you don't, you just roam around with your microphone, Steph, that would be great.
Just about the country park, it's quite important to get, and because it'll give us connectivity. When might that happen?
So the planning application for the country park is envisaged to go in at the same time as the two planning applications, one for the infrastructure and one for the first parcel of the residential land. Some of the infrastructure within the country park is also required to deliver the residential parcels, so it's our view is we'll deliver that, or certainly start delivering the country park almost from day one, so the early residents on Darwin Green 2-3 can start to benefit from that.
Are you able to share when your obligation to deliver the secondary school is within your section 106?
We certainly will be able to share that. I don't know off the top of my head, but that's something we can certainly share after the meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
The bridge over the A14, call it the Niagara Bridge or whatever, is that part of your delivery? It's shown on all your plans as an access point, obviously active travel type access. It's also shown on the County Council's strategic cycling routes. So is that yours, or do we in Girton, in order to get access to it, have to go to other people?
Yeah, we don't own or have any sort of control over the bridge itself. The Country Park Reserve Matters application will detail exactly what we will do from a pedestrian and cycle point of view up to the boundary of that bridge. But because we don't own or have any sort of control over the bridge itself, we can't deliver anything, on the bridge and north of the A14, unfortunately. But I do acknowledge there are, there's some connectivity benefits there if we were to continue a route sort of further north.
Any further questions from the room? Yes.
Just a quick one about the public art. What's the process for deciding on that, and do you have any idea where it's going and what it's going to be?
So we submitted an indicative public art strategy as part of the outline application. So that report can be circulated to people if they want to. The next step will be kind of deciding who the artists would be, what that public art would be. So at the moment we don't currently have those details. That would come forward as part of an application to the council. So at the moment it's not. It's kind of we're going off the outline, and then we'll build the detail onto that as part of the application.
Would also just add that community engagement will be an important part of all of these aspects of these applications. So we would be expecting a sort of a community engagement commitment from the developer team. And obviously they'll be coming back to these meetings to explain more, and also presenting to sort of our councillors as well. So there will be opportunities for the public and various stakeholders to feed into all those processes as the plans develop. I'm going to turn now to some questions that are still outstanding online. There's a question about ownership, and I'm believing that will be in terms of public open space ownership. If you can just give a little bit of an indication of how we foresee the management of those spaces will be determined.
Yeah, we haven't, I suppose, fully ironed out those details just yet. My initial reaction will be that the country park and other elements of open space on Darwin Green 2-3 will be managed by a management company, which is fairly standard on new build residential developments at the minute. But yeah, we haven't finalised those details just yet.
Okay. Thank you. So with no further questions, I'd like to thank you for your time, and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, now moving on now to our next speaker. Matt Johnson is going to be providing an update in respect of Eddington. Matt is here with us on behalf of Cambridge University. He is the Head of Development. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Sorry, I was going to sort my IT out.
Sorry about that, everybody. That's because I didn't send my slides in time. So I've had to put them away on my laptop. You've all had to sit and wait and watch me do that. So apologies. Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully that's better. Thank you. Can you mute your speakers? So this is a very brief update on what's going on at Eddington. And towards the end of the presentation, I'll come on to the fact that we're about to do our next. Test. Okay, see if that's any better. There we go. Sorry about that. We'll get there. So yeah, I'll come on towards the end of the presentation that we're about to go into our third round of public consultation on our new plans for the future master plan. So there'll be a lot more information at those sessions at the end of March, start of April, where we'll go into a lot of the detail of the proposals we're going to be submitting. But happy to take any questions on those today as well. Briefly, this is the original Eddington outline from 2013, showing the envisaged master plan at the time. You can see in higher definition towards the centre of the image there, the bits that have been built that you'll all be familiar with within the centre of Eddington. That gives you an overview of what the vision was for the site back in 2013. And what have we done since then? So that shows you the bits of Eddington that have been built or are under construction currently. As a reminder, the original planning consent was for 3,000 homes. 50% of those homes are what we call key worker housing. That's affordable housing for university employees and employees of affiliated institutions. We've also got consent for 2,000 student bed spaces, postgraduate student bed spaces, and 100,000 square metres of employment floor space focused on university and commercial research. To date, we've committed over 1,800 of those dwellings. We've got around about 1,100 constructed to date and another 700 under construction. And this is confusing because those numbers are the same as the ones on the screen, but we also have 700 key worker housing units constructed to date. They've been around for about 5 years now. And once everything's built that you can see the cranes there of today, we'll have 1,100 market homes totaling just over 1,800 from phase one. And we've also built out 325 of the student rooms, which is occupied by Girton College at Swills Court. As well as that, we've got Eddington Square and all the community centre with the Sainsbury's, the retail, which I hope people have noticed has improved significantly recently with lots of new retail openings, the Storage Field Centre where we are for these sessions sometimes, as well as the primary school in the centre there. Briefly touching on the health centre, you heard about Darwin Green's health centre. The university built the Eddington Health Centre about 5 years ago and been working with the NHS since then to get it occupied. Similar to Darwin Green, we have made some good progress on that recently, and in our next round of consultation we'll actually have representatives from the NHS there talking to the community about what our plans are for the space. It's not certain yet. We still need to sign in wet ink with the NHS and they've got to go through their procurement processes to finally confirm it, but we have architects on board, we are designing the space and figuring out how we're going to fit it out and how we're going to occupy it. So that's moved on significantly in recent months. So I'm hopeful that within 18 months to 2 years, we'll have health services coming out of there once we've done the NHS processes, finished the design, fitted it out, and then opened the doors. The market homes that have been delivered or are underway to date. So M1, M2, as we know it, but as Hill present it as Knights Park, that's the original phase of market housing that Hill have constructed, and that's largely complete now. They're extending onto that with what we call Lot 4. They're marketing that as Fusion, which is the next bit of Knights Park towards the northwest that Hill are constructing. We have M3, which is the large building closing off Eddington Square, so next to Sainsbury's, and that's branded as the Icon by Hill, so that's the one that overlooks the cricket pitch. There's show apartments available in there now. They've started sales and people will be moving in shortly. We've got S1, S2, sorry for people, they're very small letters. M3 is down here where I said Eddington Square. This is Knights Park. And then we've got S1, S2 up here, which is being built by Present Made. Bennett's are the contractors, but the owner and the developer is Present Made. They are building 373 build-to-rent homes. So those homes are being marketed now. I think we've had the first people move into some of the houses that they've completed. And they are all available for rent on the market with a professional landlord who manages them and lots of community space in there as well. And then we will have starting shortly M4, M5, just going off the screen here, which is Durkan Homes, who are going to be building 160 homes for sale. And you may have noticed construction work to the north of the school recently, and that's a connection road that they've put in that links those houses to Eddington Avenue. There's a little bird's eye view of what's been built to date, taken in February. You can see some of the buildings with the Rubicon buildings that were delivered by Hill, completed last year. There towards the south, we've got Huntingdon Road off up to the north there. We're currently over here, and then Madingley Road to the south. So future phases, as I said, we're looking to submit a new outline master plan application. The reason for that is there was a 10-year time limit on the original 2013 planning consent. So it said that basically after 10 years we have to renew the consent in order to keep it live. So that's why we've had to come back in with new applications. Obviously everything that's being constructed at the moment has a consented reserved matters application under the existing consent. So we're preparing that outline application now. We've done 2 rounds of public consultation and taken that feedback and integrated it back into what we're designing. Some broad principles of what we're looking to do, integrating sustainable design principles as we did last time, but updating that for current technologies, creating an exemplar community, which we think we've done a good job of already with the placemaking that we've done in Eddington and that community that's really kind of growing into itself now. Securing the university's long-term future, and this comes to the kind of raison d'etre for Eddington. Why is the University of Cambridge building an urban extension of the city? And it's because housing affordability is a critical risk for the university in making sure that we can attract the most talented researchers and workers from around the world. So that is the core reason of why we're engaged in this activity. And then supporting the wider Cambridge ecosystem as well, both with all of the facilities and services we've provided, but also with that market housing, just to help chip away at the housing need within the city that Philippa outlined earlier. So our emerging proposals, what are we doing in terms of taking that vision and turning it into a new master plan application? So deepening those design principles. We've retained the project vision from the first phase because we think it's been successful, and we're seeking to deepen that into all of the design codes and things that we'll be putting forward in the new planning application. Continuing a similar density to what's been delivered to date. So you'll see the next paragraph, we're now talking about 5,000 to 6,000 homes, where the original consent had 3,000 homes. But what that density will actually look like on the ground is very similar to what we've built. So if we continued at broad densities similar to that, we would have over 5,000 homes. So it's very much a continuation of Eddington as it's emerged. And if we were to stick to that 3,000 home limit that we had in 2013, what we'd be talking about is the rest of the master plan being built out in 2-storey houses, rather than a mix of 3-storey townhouses and 5-storey and above apartment buildings, which is what our proposals will show. We're retaining the student accommodation and employment space that's not been delivered yet. That will still be in the master plan consent and will come through in later phases of the master plan. And also continuing with our generous open space. So that density that we're talking about, those 5,000 to 6,000 homes, aren't going to be built on significant amounts of more land. We're still going to be building on the same amount of land and densifying on the plots where we've always intended to do. What that translates into is about 40% of our land holdings there remaining as open green space, and obviously all of the sports provision and roads and cycleways on top of that. Again, the community engagement, what have we heard from people? So we've done 2 rounds of this. You can see we've been into the centre of Cambridge as well, trying to get views more broadly than just up in northwest Cambridge and from the university employees. Green space has been by far the biggest thing that people have raised. So access to green space, access to nature, sports facilities, running tracks, walking tracks, just the ability to get out there and use the green facilities that we're providing. We've heard that loud and clear. Affordability of homes, people are very cognizant of that affordability challenge. a lot more active, particularly in the evenings. And then obviously infrastructure and amenities, things like health and primary schools. We've delivered the primary school very early on. The health centre we've been beavering away at, and I'm very confident we're going to have good news on that soon. Traffic and road safety, vehicles coming through Eddington, that's a big point that people have raised. We hear constantly from the community, we are a very low car use community, but we have all of these cars coming through from Huntingdon Road down to Madingley Road. We're very aware of that. Eddington has to serve a purpose, being that key connecting route between Huntingdon and Madingley, but we're looking at that in the future master plan designs and we're conscious of it, so we're trying to make sure we can minimise that impact and take it away from sensitive areas of the community. Sports and recreation, so preferences for things like football, fitness trails. Fitness trails is an interesting one. It's not something in planning that comes across in sports that much because you talk about acres of open sports pitches and things, but when you see how many people turn up for the park run on a Saturday morning in Eddington, it's fantastic. We've sometimes had over 600 people there, and seeing how popular the site is for running, that's something we're really focused on. So lots of different and interesting routes for people to use for running, walking, jogging, that kind of thing. And then looking at our sports facilities and focusing on intensification. So what we've heard a lot from the community is an unlit grass pitch is not of much use for kind of youth football clubs who are wanting to play in the winter and it's dark already. So we're focusing on how can we intensify those sports provisions to make them do something more usable by the community. So next steps on that consultation, you can see autumn and winter last year, we had our first 2 rounds of consultation. Spring this year, we've got our preferred master plan consultations, so we'll be showing you a lot more of what we've actually designed based on the feedback we've received in the first 2 rounds of consultation. You can see the dates for those there. You'll be receiving leaflets into your letterboxes and emails on mailing lists and things soon with all those dates so that you know when they're happening. But you can see 27th of March, a number of them in the Stories Field Centre, also at the West Hub down on West Cambridge, and then in the town centre again at the Lion Yard. And then from that consultation, we will work up the planning application in detail, produce all of the documents we need to produce, and we hope to submit in autumn. Once we've submitted, we'll then host another session, which isn't a consultation, but a presentation, which gives us the ability to say, here is what we've submitted, here's the detail, do you have questions on it, just to make it that bit easier to understand proposals rather than having to leaf through lots of PDF documents and things. So that'll be in autumn this year. Just touching on some of the placemaking things that have happened recently. So you can see a photograph there of our Winter Warmer event that we did at Christmas, which was great. Lots of people turned up to that, food vans and Christmas trucks and things. We've had La Pizzica open, which is the pizza restaurant in Eddington Square. Fantastic pizza, do go and check it out. We've had number 5, the Skin Clinic open, the beauticians on the north side of the square as well. And you can see the Eddington Community Orchestra event down there as well, which was a fantastic success. Brief update on Stories Field Centre. There was a question about this at the last forum I attended. So it is public knowledge now that the trust that manages the Stories Field Centre is changing. It's previously been a charitable trust owned 50-50 by the City Council and the university. The City Council is withdrawing from that partnership, and the university will now be the sole member of the trust. What that means in practice is you won't see any difference on the ground of how it's managed. The staff will be the same, the programme of events will be the same. It's just that the trust is moving to sole control of the university. There will still be a community access agreement between the university and the City Council, which will secure the place to make sure that it remains open for community activity and it can't be turned into a lecture block or something. So. The Grow Club launch, so a few of us have just come from an early event we did to get feedback from the community on what they want to see in our Grow Club initiative. So we've been having cups of tea over there with the community to say, how do you want to engage in this activity? And this is going to be bringing some community growing space into the heart of Eddington. So we've heard loud and clear feedback from the community that they want growing space, they want access to allotments. These have been difficult to unlock to date because of the phasing of the site. And so this is a small memento towards that growing ambition that people have in Eddington, where we're going to host some planters and have events with other charities from the city where people can come and join in and contribute to growing food within the centre of Eddington. And it's very much a nod to what will come once we can actually unlock those allotments and allow people to do proper growing. And then our next big event in Eddington Square is the Eddington Beer Garden. This is its 3rd year, I think, now. It's been very successful every year and really well received. So 9th to the 11th of May, come along to that, and there's food and drink and music and activities in Eddington Square. And that's me. Any questions? Thank you.
We've had complaints about the waste.
Yes, yes. Sorry, it was on, that was on my list to proactively address, but because it wasn't on my slides, I didn't do so. Yeah, so the waste is very disappointing and it looks a mess, and I apologise to the community for it. What's happening there is the van has broken. So I think you probably appreciate that the special van that we have that the council own, there's only one of them. It's actually been remarkably successful for the last 6 years. If you think about, we have a single van, the amount of downtime it's had has been remarkably low. Unfortunately, things are breaking now. The latest update is that there is a part sat in customs that should be with us any day now, and once that part arrives, it will be fixed, and we've been advised it's probably Tuesday that the van will be back up and running and able to do the collections. The council are working on a backup system if that's delayed again, but we're hoping we won't actually have to implement that. We have a sort of backup at the minute that there's Eurobins on site where our team from the management company are moving bin bags over and filling up the Eurobins. So we're hopeful it will be solved by the middle of next week, and we won't have those issues anymore. And yeah, we'll be reflecting on this and coming up with other backup plans if we do have a longer term downtime for the van in the future.
Any news, Matt, on heating and grey water?
Yeah,
next phase?
So on heating for the future phases, we are probably going to change to a different system, and that's going to be based on localized networks focused on heat pumps. So reflecting the change in technology that's happened in the meantime, moving towards something that's effectively more electricity based. But if we do that, we need to acknowledge the kind of engineering solutions for that, and they lend themselves better to smaller systems rather than ambitious community-wide heat networks like we have in the first phase of Eddington. That means the first phase obviously is still running on the gas-fired energy system that we have in the energy centre at the moment. That will at some point be retrofitted, but we have to factor in there making sure that A, we come up with the right design for a retrofit, but B, we think about things like embodied carbon. And it's not necessarily the right thing to rip out a 5-year-old system, replace it with a brand new system when you take into account the whole carbon cycle and think, what's the embodied carbon of doing that? So that it is on a list of things that the university is looking at in our decarbonisation programme, but it's not necessarily going to be prioritised as a day one. We need to get that off gas and get it fixed straight away. Future homes, beyond the ones that are being built today, will be based on electricity-based heat pump technologies. Water was your other one, non-potable. We are still working with DEFRA, and for a potted history of our non-potable water system, the system that we have has basically been prevented from being turned on by the Drinking Water Inspectorate. And that's because there is a piece of legislation that says if you are a statutory water undertaker, like Cambridge Water and Anglian Water are, you must supply wholesome water to domestic premises, to residents. Wholesome has a definition, and that means that it has to be drinkable effectively. The system at Eddington is designed to provide safe water, but non-potable, non-drinkable water for doing things like irrigating your garden, washing your clothes, flushing your toilet. And all of the homes in Eddington have a dual pipe system. So they've got a non-potable and a potable pipe going into them. So we have been working with DEFRA to get that law changed, to make it make a bit more sense and say, well, it needs to be wholesome if it's for drinking purposes, but if you're doing X, Y, Z, you can do that with a non-wholesome water source. Once that happens, we can turn it on and commission it, and we hopefully will then continue it into future phases. At the minute, we have a backup plan on being a low water use community in the future, which again would be plot-based solutions to capturing rainwater, storing it and using it. But we hope we can revert to using our big site-wide system because it's a very sensible and useful system if we're able to turn it on. DEFRA do have a team of civil servants looking at this, so they're not just saying, yes, we're on it. There is a team of people looking at which laws they need to change and how long it's going to take. You'll appreciate, obviously, with the change of government, parliamentary time is in demand, and we've got to make sure that it remains a priority for
them. Matt, the undeveloped part of Eddington to date is all within the parish of Girton.
Almost, yeah.
What steps are you taking to ensure that the community in Girton on Eddington side and south of Huntingdon Road actually can interact and form a unified parish community with the bulk of Girton that's currently on the north side of Huntingdon Road?
Yeah. So I think the key thing to say what we're doing there is we're talking to the community and trying to understand from Eddington residents and Girton residents, how is that relationship going to work in the future? And it's obviously not clear cut when you look at the numbers of properties coming forward compared to the numbers of properties that exist in Girton Parish today, it's not as straightforward as saying, you guys are in Girton, so go over there. And there's other complications in that we are very focused on making sure that the heart of Eddington is where we've built it. So the Stories Field Centre, for example, is our community centre, and we want our residents, no matter how deep into Girton Parish they are, to feel that they're part of Eddington. So we're keen to engage the kind of growing community in a conversation about that and see how do they want to interact with Girton. And the other aspect of communication there is making sure that we can get Girton Parish communications into our residents. So things like using our notice board that we've got in Eddington Square, giving the parish space on there to make sure that you can publicise the things you're doing. And then I think also interacting with the parish, and we've had some very early conversations and brief conversations about, well, what can we do in more actively splitting Stories Field Centre and your community centre? So don't invest in facilities at the Girton Community Centre that actually Eddington can provide already, and vice versa. So making sure that we've got a joined up programme of events between those two spaces. So there's more work to do there, and I think it is about talking to the communities as they change over time and see how do people want to interact.
Any more questions from the room? No, in that case, I'm going to turn to some of the online questions. Matt, we have someone asking if you could clarify when the lighting will be installed in the Ridgeway.
Okay, thank you. So we've got lighting on the Ridgeway from Bunkers Hill, which is the Huntingdon Road end of the Ridgeway, down to where it meets Swales Court at the moment. So we had some successful solar lights go in there. We've had planning discussions lately about in putting in lighting down towards the other end of the Ridgeway. There are ecological concerns with it. So if you think about where you enter Eddington from Stories Way, there's that big bit of woodland and then the field on the opposite side. So we've got bats to take care of and that kind of thing. So we're still figuring out exactly what the right solution is for that lighting before we can implement it. And obviously in the fullness of time, when 19-acre field is developed, there will be a permanent lighting solution that will be designed in as part of the detail at that point.
Great, thank you, Matt. And we have another question. It's a topic area that you've been asked about before, and I feel that we need a frequently asked question to a response that we'll put online. It's about the swimming pool.
My favourite.
The question is it in the plan, and the plan for the Northwest, but are you happy to give an update and just to clarify the position on that? Thank you.
Happy to. And yeah, Philip has alluded to my frustration on that, because I think the way it's been written about in the press hasn't really covered exactly the process that happened with the swimming pool. So Eddington has made a significant financial contribution towards swimming pool provision within the city. That's what every development like Eddington, like Darwin Green does. You have a schedule of payments towards facilities like swimming pools. We've made that payment. As we were required to. What we preserved in 2013 when we got the original planning consent was, well, we don't want to pay you that money if we choose to build a swimming pool down at Cambridge West, because we've built a swimming pool. So if we'd done that, then there was an agreement with the council that money could be used towards the construction of the Cambridge West swimming pool. There is a swimming pool within the master plan for Cambridge West, so that will come ahead one day if it's delivered in accordance with that master plan. But that planning consent wasn't granted until the middle of last year. So we couldn't have built a swimming pool by now. And it's subject to the broader development plans around Cambridge West. So we've made the financial contribution we needed to make for the swimming pool. We may well end up with a swimming pool at Cambridge West one day as well, which will be a bonus. But we've not done anything differently there to what any other developer of housing would do.
Great, thank you for that update, Matt. The remaining questions in the chat online appear to relate to the Darwin Green 1 development, so we will come back to those at the end of the evening, and I'm hopeful that Andrew's still on the call and John is.
Yes, I am still here.
Yep. Brilliant. Thank you for confirming. Just hang on in there, Andrew. We'll come back to those questions shortly, but with no more for you, Matt. Thank you very much. Okay, now. Our final guest speaker is Steph Snowden from the City Council's Community Development Team. Thank you.
Amazing. All right. Hi, as I've already been introduced, I'm Steph. So I work here at the community centre, and my role also spans other areas at the moment of the city. But I work with Suzanne Jackson, who unfortunately can't be here tonight, but she's on holiday. So yeah, I thought I'd give a bit of an update of what Sue has mostly been doing over the last few months since the last forum. So just in terms of since the site was open, we set up a Darwin Green steering group meeting, and that was mostly professionals that were coming to that meeting, and it felt like it ran its course and that actually the community wanted to get a bit more involved. So we've kind of changed that group a little bit now, and it's Darwin Green residents that are part of that group, and we're meeting every 2 months. And what we're able to do is focus really on community things that are happening. So helping to find the community activators that might want to take things forward and supporting them to do that. We've got a couple of people who came to the meeting, our last meeting, so hopefully that will move forward and we'll gather momentum with that. We've only had one meeting so far, so the next thing that Sue and I have been doing is some door knocking. So what that involves is going out to local residents to find out kind of what they're finding is working well on site, and also kind of any teething issues that are coming up, and then we can kind of work with the residents and just basically look at how to resolve those issues, or speak to John or anybody who might have that bit of extra information, basically. So from the door knocking, we've had lots of feedback. So one of the things was a Lego club here at Darwin Green. We've managed to accommodate that in the holidays now. So we tagged that onto our holiday lunches that run from here. And we also had quite a few reports of antisocial behaviour. And you can see here that we've been working with the antisocial behaviour team and the police, and that was as a result of the door knocking, that there was a report of lots of motorbikes that were whizzing up and down and making kind of lots of noise at different times of the night. So we're trying to work with the antisocial behaviour team and with the police. So that was a daytime meeting, and again we've had feedback that actually an evening meeting would be preferred for something like that. It's difficult with the police sometimes because that's the time when they're most on call, but we'll certainly try and accommodate that with our antisocial behaviour team if things flare up again. We've also had questions around the tennis court and the pavilion opening times again, which we're able to respond to. And the next thing was an information pack. So we've got some information packs downstairs. So this is aimed at new residents who might move into the area, who don't know very much about Cambridge or about how the transport system works or about how the school system works, and it just helps to give that little bit of information. So again, we've worked with our steering group to be able to kind of make sure that the right information is in there. We would like to work towards an electronic copy of that, but that will take a little bit more time. So we've got the hard copy of that downstairs at the moment. The Darwin Green community rooms is steadily increasing its bookings. So this space is being more and more well used, which is amazing. We've got a drop in on a Wednesday morning that happens here. So if you want to pop down for a cup of tea, then feel free. And John utilises again once a month. John, remind me, is it the end? Last Wednesday of every month, John is here to answer residents' questions around kind of any concerns that they've got or any planning issues. And that's been a really successful kind of thing with John coming here. We've also got rhyme time for toddlers, and again, it's kind of working out who lives here on site, and again we can do that a little bit with the door knocking, and then what is needed here, and who might be able to kind of come in and deliver that basically. We've also had lots of events. So here at Darwin Green, we've had our holiday lunches, and over at Stories Field, we've had holiday lunches as well. We've had the Christmas gathering with the New Life Church. So we had a Christmas gathering and some carols with Tim. And we supported the Teddington Christmas event as well by providing a Santa and some support. The Lego Club also over at Stories Field continues to run during the term time at the moment. Moving forward, we've got lots of exciting events to come up, including Easter, and Sue's really keen on the Playing Out initiative. So it's where residents can help to close their street, and then they can play out on their doorstep. So it's like kind of what we used to do when we were a little bit younger, that you'd open the door and you'd play out. Now there's too many cars and things like that. So it's just to help that initiative grow, really. So we'll be doing one of those over in Eddington and in Darwin Green. I have got some further photos as well. So yeah, so these are just a few examples of the events that we've had. So I think this one over here was the Christmas carols one, and then yes, this was our over at Stories Field, our Santa Claus who comes out every year. And then this was again at Stories Field, just some of the artwork that the children had made. And again, that was our last holiday lunch at Stories Field. And this was Sue and I when we were doing our door knocking. So kindly George took the photo of us there without our shoes, but that's another story. So just in terms of resident feedback, as I mentioned, kind of more crime prevention. So there's lots of kind of reports of stolen bikes and drug users on the site. And again, when we were working with the antisocial behaviour team, what they said was report, report, report. If something's not reported, then it can't be tracked. So that's the message that we are kind of getting out to residents. And then once those issues are reported, then they can kind of map out where the hotspots of criminal activity are happening. One of the other ones was it doesn't feel safe. This was particularly around in Darwin Green, this feedback. The motorcycles, as I say, were driving around at all hours. There was potentially looking at a drop-down space. So until the library is available, I think that lots of people are really keen on the library opening so that they can potentially use it as a drop-down space for taking meetings or having, working in a different environment other than at home constantly. The bins were overflowing and dog waste bins overflowing. So that's now been resolved, I believe. And not all the lights on the Greenway are working. So again, that's been resolved and reported, and we'll keep a track on that. We have also got an under £5,000 grant, which is available at the City Council. So again, feel free to email me at all. Also, leave my details here. So yeah, it's really, really key that we get those grants in. I think that it opens in April. For those grants, so it's any resident group. If you're looking at having a community event or something along those lines, I'm happy to chat to anybody about that. That's me.
Fabulous. Many thanks, Steph. Does anyone in the room have any questions for Steph?
Hi, it's George. Actually, this isn't really directed so much at you as at BDW. And we had a great working relationship with Adrian Jarman and also Alex, the technical director. Good shout out to both of them. Incredibly helpful. We'd love to meet and talk to their replacements. That would be really high on the things that we'd like to do. as a follow-on point to that, so it's not really a question, but we would like to know who they are, who the replacements are, and get to meet them as quickly as possible. Second point I just wanted to raise is that so we had I live in one of the first ever blocks of flats on Lawrence Weaver Road, and we're only 4 blocks in our little residence management company, and we got this service agent that was dreadful called Firstport, and we've worked really well with BDW to have them removed, and that's about to happen. And at that point, the residents, the leaseholders, will take control of their residence management company. Looking into other areas, such as what we call King's Court, the RMC is called Huntington Road ex-NIAB. And also for the courtyard, we've been asked if they could do the same now. They would also, the leaseholders there, would also like to take control of their RMCs as well. And so we'd like to know how to go about that. We really need BDW's help on this. So the kind of general questions, but I think they're both related to finding out who is Adrian's replacement now. And just a third kind of just general point, but it's fitting to come after you, is that we have a really good community chat called Friendly Neighbours, and we're nearly 300 in it. We have our castle councillors, we have parish councillors, 2 chairs of parish councillors as well in it, community officers as well, obviously. And so it's just a kind of a general invitation. Anyone in this room that would like to join it, that's local, who would like to know more about what's going on, please get in touch with me, and we'll bring you into the chat. Yeah.
Thank you. Great. So a number of questions that George has asked this evening. George, can I just commend you on your ability to actually write online questions and join us in the room? Covering both options. It's very impressive. So I see that John stood up behind you. John, did you want to come in there, or should we go straight to Andrew? And Andrew, thanks. You're still with us. That's great. A couple of questions there for you. I think probably the big one is when can we meet the replacements in person that are going to be leading on this site? Is this something that you can facilitate?
I think initially start with me. I'm quite a good filter. Obviously, as we said at the very beginning of my presentation, the project was transferred from the Cambridgeshire office to the Northampton office of David Wilson Homes, and obviously that will take a while, or still is taking a while to bed in. Clearly, we've got the construction director, who I believe has met some individuals, some residents on site recently, and it's more a case of the individual, the director, or whoever is appropriate to give a meaningful response to a discussion will be selected based on the questions or the issues raised, because I think it's appropriate to have the right individual. So really, what I was going to do after this meeting, hopefully tomorrow, is to put a sort of a broader note as to the individuals that are available to replace Adrian, who obviously is irreplaceable anyway. But as I said, start with me, and I'm a pretty active and feisty filter to make sure that things get done.
Great, many thanks. I mean, Andrew, you've obviously heard that desire for a meeting in person. So if you could take that back to the team, that would be really appreciated.
Yeah, that's not an issue. It's a case of making sure it's agreed appropriately as to when and where and so on.
Right. So there's a question that George also asked about how leaseholders can take control. Is that something you want to answer now, or do you want to take away and come back to us with an update?
Leasehold is highly complex and very current, looking at government legislation generally. So I'm going to step well away from that one, but at the same time, obviously capture it as a question, and I'll get, again, as I said previously, the right person, excuse me, within our business to actually respond to that.
Great. If that could be taken away for an update that appears on
Yep.
our, we'd appreciate that. I'm going to take the opportunity to invite George to come back in at this point. But you need a microphone.
Hi, Andrew. It's George.
Hello,
So
George.
if you talk to Alex and Adrian, they both know me very well. Alex, the technical director that's leaving, was helping us enormously to remove Firstport, and so that we could take control of our RMC. But Alex is leaving, and so we need to talk to his replacement as soon as we can, in fact. So if you could help facilitate that conversation, right?
Yeah, yes. I mean, certainly Alex hasn't left yet. So
Great.
I'll be talking to him tomorrow.
Yeah, he's great, and
yeah,
we appreciate all this help, but we'd really like to know his replacement as well, because we're just on the cusp of removing Firstport. It is enormously difficult, but Barrett's have been brilliant in how they've helped us, and so much so that the people in King's Court, the people on Yeoman Drive, Belton and all that, they also too would like to talk about taking control of their RMC as well, because they also have Firstport. So
Right. Well, I think based on the fact you've probably done a lot of the sort of the hard work to get to where you are. Obviously, that's well worth sharing. Looking at the benefits and the pitfalls and so on. I'll speak to Alex tomorrow,
great.
and obviously we can make sure that whoever replaces him is suitably briefed as helpful as Alex has been.
Okay, I did have a question online as well. Could I
Yeah,
raise? You kind of talked about it, but it was just about Darwin Green 2 and 3, the phases.
Yep.
And at the moment, and Andrew's sitting next to me, but as far as I understand it, Histon and Impington are going to be the parish council for Darwin Green phases 2 and 3. And my point, because I'm a Girton parish councillor, and my point is that seems pretty absurd to me. I think it would be much better placed if Darwin Green phases 2 and 3 were part of Girton Parish Council. And I'm going to make a big point of that going forward. So I'd love
George,
to.
that's good question, but we're going to respond to that here. Vicky's going to do that.
I was just going to say we've had reviews of boundaries in various bits of the city and South Cambs before. What we won't be able to do is make a decision on any changes before devolution happens. So obviously it's quite complicated. Local governments are all working through any details and plans coming forward, and there will be likely to be a knock-on impact for how parishes work and how we look at what that looks like once we know what devolution looks like. So we won't make a commitment to do it, but we do understand the frustrations of having a development that goes right through the middle of two different very styles of working in terms of whether you're in the city boundary and that's a very urbanised way of running a local government, or if you're in the South Cambs side of the boundary and having a parish council. They're very different styles of local government, and we hope to see some resolution through devolution.
Yeah, I just to sort of just add to that, to give a bit more sort of comfort. Obviously, as we've said before, that phase 2, 3 is going to take some time, a considerable amount of time, which might be years, before it really becomes a development that actually has the need of a parish council at the level you're talking about. So there is time ahead of us to be able to obviously do anything that we can to facilitate that. But clearly it is well outside of the remit of a developer to obviously influence political affiliations within an area.
Yeah, if I could just come in there, George. Good evening. I'm Ryan Coetzee and I work for South Cambs District Council. So I'm Steph and Vicky's counterpart at the District Council. So as the City Council are responsible for maintaining their wards within their principal boundary, so is South Cambs. So if you can think back to Orchard Park, used to be a part of Histon and Impington Ward, and they conducted a community governance, well, we conducted a community governance review, and that's a statutory 12-month process whereby the community will decide how their community will look post a new development. So it is likely that a community governance review will be triggered in Girton as a result of the phase 2 development there, but also in Darwin Green 2 and 3. But so obviously at the moment we've got the principal boundary dissecting Darwin Green 1 and Darwin Green 2 and 3. So local government reorganisation might actually be beneficial in these terms, in that the principal boundary will essentially evaporate, and we could have a Darwin Green 1, 2 and 3 community, but we cannot prejudice that until that reorganisation order has been done. But similarly to South Trumpington, so that was in the Haslingfield ward of South Cambs, we now have a South Trumpington Parish Council. We've got Orchard Park that was kind of dislocated from Impington, and much in the same way, Darwin Green 2 and 3 will be a new development that is separated from Histon, well, it's actually Impington ward, by the A14. So there's a natural boundary there. But again, we can't prejudice that. And once we hit a specific trigger, it's normally around registered electors. So as an example, in Northstowe, the community governance there was triggered at around 500 registered electors. So we have to get input from the existing residents there in order to form the new parish. We can't wait too long because we do need to install community governance at an early stage. So every community is different. We will wait for Darwin Green 2 and 3 to progress, and the trigger might be 200 registered electors, it might be 800 registered electors, so we just have to wait for that. But as Vicky said, there's an additional layer of complexity there in that we can't initiate those until we understand what the new improved principal boundary will be of a potential new combined authority. So we'll have to wait for that initially, and then we'll decide what the potential registered electors trigger will be in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. We've got a number of questions in the chat which are related to Darwin Green 1 again. So I'm just going to address these to Andrew, if that's okay. The first one for you, and John as well. Well, you can do a team effort as before.
Go on, John, share my pain.
Has the management company been appointed for the servicing and management of the ditch along Woodlark Road and maintenance of the drainage on site?
No. We're way from that. The civil engineering contractor is instructed to carry out the works. As I said earlier, they're due to do that in end of March. The adoption and transfer of any area of incidental open space or open space is a process that takes a while, so we don't anticipate that, and we'll be taking responsibility until that's done.
Thank you, Andrew. And another question, what is happening about the flooding along the Huntingdon Road boundary? Will extra drainage be necessary?
Let me have a look at that.
Okay, we will take that away. John, is there anything you would like to add?
No, it's noted, the instances currently are that during the winter rainfall we've had in January and February, but the southern part of parcel BDW2, there is standing water, certainly within the BDW2 parcel, and I guess that residents at the bottom of their gardens of Huntingdon Road are experiencing a similar amount of water in that rough location as well, Andrew. So,
well, yeah, I'm just on that on a technical note, because I put my old technical hat on. Clearly, a site that's exposed will obviously take significant rainfall and will obviously have a runoff. Once it's developed, you then have different drainage regimes. You've got highways, you've got obviously drives, you've got the properties themselves, and the whole drainage system is obviously designed when it's complete to accommodate that. So it will get better, but as I said, let me take it away. If we need to carry out an interim piece of work to ensure that certainly any runoff doesn't affect the adjoining properties, the existing residents, then clearly we will.
Great, thank you, Andrew. And I think that's all questions directed to you, but don't leave the call yet.
No, I'll answer anything.
Okay, actually, I'm going to take one more, the final one online, and then we'll do the questions in the room. And I'm not entirely sure who I should be directing this to, so any of the officers here that want to answer, just wave your hand. Someone has observed that they were originally on the Darwin Green 1 public art panel as a local resident, but all communication ceased. Who is the contact to follow up on this with? That's really a piece around delivery of public art on Darwin Green 1. There will be opportunities as Darwin Green 2, 3 come forward to reconvene a public art panel, I'm sure, and to have engagement with regard to public art. but I think we might need to take away the question specifically about delivery of public art on Darwin Green 1.
Is it just a question of who's in their contact?
Yeah.
Andrew?
Well, okay. Well, I mean, public art is one of my favourite things. I was the development director for the Orchards Estates and so on. Right. We clearly, as John is aware, we need to reconvene the approach to public art in a much more positive and joined up way. And what we've done is we've appointed commissioned projects who are a well-known local public art consultant to do a complete review, so that rather than break it down into individual parcels, but actually look at it as a much wider subject area. And clearly there's been a lot of money spent on consultation and sort of events, but I think it's time now to actually convert that interest into something physical that people can actually celebrate and use as a way of recognising Darwin Green itself. So that's the intent, is to actually refocus our efforts on a site-wide review of the strategy, adjust it where it needs to be, but jointly with John and obviously Nadine as well, to bring together a more cohesive document and approach, which obviously then invites further consultation and then re-engagements with groups and so on. So it's very much an open door as far as I'm concerned. It's a pet subject. So yes, we're looking at this very positively.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Right, I'm going to now turn to final questions from the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, unfortunately, it's for you again.
Go
on. Earlier you mentioned buses, and yep. I'm very aware that there's a link between Histon Road and Huntington Road. Is there any date, time when that could come forward? Just conscious that there's a Northern Orbital being tendered at the moment, which is going to travel all the way down Histon Road, all the way back up Huntington Road, when it could come through the centre of Darwin Green and probably supply your bus that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, as I said, like all these things, I need to engage with those who deliver it. So clearly the bus operators, who no doubt will obviously look at the commercial viability of these buses, but obviously there isn't now a moment when we need to actually start to get some buses on the ground. We need to also marry that with obviously the impact of phase 2-3 has, because I was part of the team that sort of pushed it through to the outline planning approval, and clearly there's an aspiration to look at Darwin Green as a whole, which I think is important, because it's easy to break these down into phases and then ignore the fact that actually Darwin Green, which fundamentally is about 2,600 properties, is a big estate that needs to be managed. So again, if you can give me some time, let me start some conversation to actually start to get some meaningful delivery and also some realistic future plans in place, so that people can at least monitor and measure their obviously their ambitions to start to use public transport again.
Thank you. Right, any further questions from the room? Yes.
Thank you. There is a website, darwingreenconstruction.co.uk, that used to get updates about the general development. The latest update is from May 2024. Is there any chance that the site could get newer updates?
Yeah, actually, it's quite relevant, because again, I had an email from Meeting Places, who are our consultant who manages that, who wants to capture obviously the output and undertakings made at this meeting. There's a lot happening, as you probably appreciate. There's been a sort of a lull around about Christmas and before. Yes, and the whole point is that we need to start to use the website as an active way of communicating events, and that is one of the issues, one of the items on my many things to do.
Take one final question, if there is one. Okay, George.
George, can you make the question less than 1 minute long?
Whilst Jules, whilst Jules is just condensing his question into 15 seconds. But Jules, Jules, sorry, I'll just have a moment. Thank you. I just want to point out from following from Andrew's point about updates from that last question, is that Andrew has requested basically a communications like emails. Is if anyone would like regular updates from Andrew via emails and would like for them to like to give their emails, you can come and speak to me afterwards. And I'll take those email addresses from you. But we can put into one kind of general. Okay, George, apologies. Thank you very much.
So the area that we all call King's Court, which is Yeoman Drive and all that, the older David Wilson estate, has that been adopted yet? If not, why not? And when will it be adopted?
There are no roads. Right, okay. There are no roads within the development that have actually been adopted by the county council. There's a highways authority. I understand, and this is only an understanding sort of third hand, that there was an issue with some works at the junction and land ownership, which I understand has been resolved. The adoption process obviously takes a while. You have to put it on maintenance, and then it's inspected and then accepted by the authority, and then they take it over. And obviously I can report back outside this meeting as to any timescale on that. So yes, I mean, obviously we're keen, because we are taking both the maintenance responsibility and clearly a financial responsibility to look after the highways as they are at the moment, and obviously we're keen to give the county that role, which is obviously part of the whole approach we've taken for this development.
Thank you, Andrew. We are joined this evening by a representative from the County Highway Authority. Jez, I'm on the spot again. Is there anything that you would like to add, Jez?
Well, having had...
microphone.
Sorry. Having had some experience with road adoptions, yeah, they do take quite a while. I don't know whether there's a particular sticking point with this one. What I will do, though, is I can go and have a word with our development management team and see where they are with things and whether there's a particular issue with this one that we don't know about. I think we always like to get roads adopted. I think, you know, things like buses going down them as well, that's quite critical. So I'll take that away.
That would be brilliant. Thank you, Jez. Right, I am now going to draw the questions to an end, and I'm going to just give some closing points. Thank you, all of you, for attending this evening, and to all our presenters, officers, and everyone for joining us this evening. Also, as ever, thank you to the great communities officers from both authorities, always so good at supporting me at these events, and they work really hard behind the scenes to deliver these forums. So thank you personally from me. We will aim to have the recording and presentations from today's meeting on the forum webpage within 2 weeks. And we look forward to seeing you all again at the next forum, which I believe will be on the 12th of June. Thank you and good night to you all.
Yeah, we've also got a QR code of feedback for any future forums. So there's one on the door as you go out, or there's one on this door as well. So you can take a picture with your phone and it will come up with a little form with some questions, or you can email me directly and I can send you the form.
Wasn't on my list. Sorry, wasn't on my note.
No, I forgot to.
It was a last minute addition.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my God, Techie.
Yeah.
On the decks. I got quite stressed just seeing it all.
Yeah, you know what? I was like, finally I remembered about the output of sound. So even though his sound was off, it was still outputting from his laptop. So what I did was I outputted to the TV.
Yeah, well, I mean, it took me a while. I got there.
What's your surname?